Thank you very much, Rapahel Chikukwa, for participating to this interview. Could you please tell me something about curating in Africa, with particular regards to the Zimbabwe Pavilion you curated this year, and also the first edition, second edition of the pavilion in the two last editions, and more generally about Zimbabwe art scene?
Thank you very much, Michela. Firstly, I would like to say curating in Africa is I am a curator who was trained in the UK, finished at Kingston University under the Chavening Scholarship in 2007. And after Kingston, I had dialogues with so many other curators like B.C. Silva from Nigeria, who then were talking about what can be done in Africa and the possibilities of working and practicing in Africa as a curator. So in 2010, I decided to come back to Zimbabwe. This was a great opportunity to work my curatorial training and to be able to add value to the Zimbabwean community. So I was then invited into a Curating in Africa forum, which was organized by the Tate Modern in October 2010, which brought together a number of curators working and practicing in Africa. That includes B.C. Silva, Ngoni Fall, and many others. And at the same time, the National Gallery had mooted the idea of a Zimbabwe Pavilion. And I'm sure the issue pertaining the representation of Africa at the in the Western metropolis has been at the forefront of discussions within Africa and in the diaspora. So this also gave us an opportunity as a national gallery to spearhead this project called Zimbabwe Pavilion, which started in 2011. But basically, we mooted the project in 2010 and realized it in 2011, with which was entitled "Seeing Ourselves," with 4 artists: Tafuma Gusa, Barry Biko, and Mishek Masambu and Kelvin Dondo. So the idea was for us to be able to have that pavilion in Venice, because my first trip to Venice was in 2001, and not being able to see an African representation at the Venice Biennale has always been questionable and has remained questionable to us and to many other curators in the continent. So that made it possible for us to be able to work on that project. But we worked on that project with many partners. That includes the British Council, the Museum of Monaco, and the European Union, and including the government of Zimbabwe under the Ministry of Sports, Arts and Culture, which then gave us funding to be able to realize the project. There are a number of independent art institutions, from the Raw Material Company in Senegal to Douala Arts in Cameroon to CCA Lagos in Nigeria, and the Center of Reenactment in South Africa. But the National Gallery of Zimbabwe also comes into that play, but as a national institution, is also because of the network which the National Gallery provides to some of these projects. But having said that, there's been a number of projects which have come to the National Gallery, initiated by some of those curators. A good example was the Art at Work, which was a touring exhibition curated by Simon Jami, which arrived here in 2012. Then the other project was an exhibition, A Tale of Two Cities, which was co-curated by B.C. Silva and other curators from Norway. So that's another project which is very, very important to mention, because it highlighted the need for collaboration regionally and internationally. Mm-hmm. So then when we realized the project in 2011, we thought that there was no need for us to have a one-off thing, So in 2013, we realized another Zimbabwe Pavilion, which was called Dude Zero. And it's a project which showcased more than 4 artists. There were 5 artists: Virginia Chiwota, Michela Mathison, Portia, Rashid Jogi, and Voti Tebe. And for us, Venice was never about just coming and say goodbye, but the idea to continue the visibility of Zimbabwe at the Venice Biennale as part of our international programs. Mm-hmm. And this is why we've returned back to Venice in 2015 at the 56th Venice Biennale with yet another bigger project of the Zimbabwe Pavilion. The National Gallery of Zimbabwe is the center of contemporary art in Zimbabwe, which has been in existence from 1957 to the present day. Mm-hmm. And since its inception, the National Gallery of Zimbabwe has been the center, I'm sure, with a number of projects which have happened here, from Rembrandt to Picasso. Then the very important international forum, which was called ICAC, the mm-hmm. International Congress of African Art, which took place here in 1962, which brought a lot of international museum players from around the world. So all we are doing here at the National Gallery is continuing that spirit, which has been in existence since the gallery's inception. But we can only do that through the art scene, which is vibrant, scene which is lively. And I would like to say Zimbabwe has gone through many challenges in the past 10 years or so. But it did not stop the artistic expression in this country. Like many others would say that good art comes from a struggle. Mm-hmm. And today we see a lot of young Zimbabwean artists exhibiting at international events like the Frieze Art Fair in the US, the Frieze Art Fair in the UK, and including the Johannesburg Art Fair in Johannesburg in South Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. This means that you have done a good job.
Well, I mean, it's a teamwork, it's a team spirit which is coming from this institution, which is driven by our director here, Mrs. Doreen Sibanda, mm-hmm. who I work closely with, and also the support we get from the international community that includes embassies in Zimbabwe, and including other partners and friends in Italy, in the UK, and in America. We do have a lot of connections internationally who keep supporting the initiatives which are taking place here.
Especially young artists are staying there in Zimbabwe, or do you think they're leaving the country and then coming back? There is a good exchange, as you're saying, but most of the artists live there or prefer to go abroad?
I would like to say a number of artists. I'm sure the artists we have showcased in Venice, mm-hmm. We only have one artist who, among us, the group which came to Venice in 2013, one artist living in South Africa. We do have a number of artists living in South Africa, mm-hmm. and we do have the bigger number of artists living here in Zimbabwe and working and practicing in Zimbabwe, mm-hmm. which is also very good.
Yeah.
And but we are not limited to artists who are only working in Zimbabwe. We always cast our net wider to those who are also working in the diaspora, mm-hmm. because the diaspora narratives are also as important as the ones we have inside in Zimbabwe. As a national institution, we have got a role to play to provide a platform to these artists. And I would like to mention that the National Gallery has gone, for the past year, it has gone through major renovations, which we got more than $500,000 from the Embassy of Norway to be able to put up a new roof and a new ceiling and any other repairs for this major building, for us to not to have a leaking roof, and yet you still want to do exhibitions, because if you have a leaking roof, you've got a problem. And art and leaking roof, they don't go together. But also to look at our collection, to see the possibility that we can collaborate. At the moment, we are in discussions with Michela, who is an Italian art critic based in London, to look at a possibility to catalog our collection, which is a huge collection of European masters, but mainly from the Italian collection,